Welcome to the daytime Schmoopydady streaming experience. I'm your host, as per usual, Schmoopydady. If it's the first time you're watching one of these meta reports, I'm a monthly Hearthstone Wild Legend player who typically hits Legend first of the month, and after that I goof off, and when I goof off, I play your decks. But every 2 weeks or so, this has been a little bit longer, I try to put out a meta report about where I think the Wild meta is at, and it's an interesting story. So the mini set comes out, and we get Bat Mask. And Bat Mask, this card right here, basically changes everything and brings us from a control meta into a little bit more of an aggro meta, or almost a combo meta. Borlock ends up being a deck that has a really good matchup into some of the top control decks at the time, namely Hostage Mage and Seedlock, and really scrambles around matchups and really does upset the apple cart that was Wild for a hot minute. And it looked like that was going to be the deck that was sort of dictating the meta. 30 Borlock turned out to be incredibly susceptible to aggro and really easy to aggro down, but you died if you were basically not proactive enough to kill it. The deck that was actually tier 2, that I'm going to feature from Nefane, was a combination of Crane Game and Borlocks. Right, so we're still doing Elwyn Boar, we're still doing Bat Mask early with Blood Bloom. Shadowborn turned out to be really good at reducing Blood Bloom and getting you those early Murk-Eye pop-offs. Murk-Eye was a fantastic contingency plan. And also, against aggro, you had 40 health, and you could shore that up with an early Crane Game, which might get you a Mal'Ganis, it might get you a couple of Scorching Observers, and the game typically ended from there. Really cute in this list, too, is Unstable Fellbolt and Full-Blown Evil, sort of mixed in with the Popgar. Popgar making the fell spells, cost 2 less. Unstable Fellbolt becomes like 0 mana, lifesteal for 6, deal 3 to an enemy minion, and possibly, not the worst thing in the world if it ends up hitting a Shadowborn or something like that. We had minions that were playing that. We either didn't care if they got damaged or, whatever. Just, you're healing up. So this deck was really running things for a hot minute. And then things kind of cooled down a little bit. The egg decks turned out to be much better at countering Borlocks. Egg of Kelos got ourselves, the big bird, the 2020 bird, got taunt. And so now boars are doing their Plague of Flames turn, and they're popping eggs, and they're making taunts that are in the way that they can't face tank or else they die. I got this deck list from Filterphobe, who got this, I think, 38 of the 40 cards from user Icenix, and swapped out rats for Shallow Graves. The Shallow Graves are inspired. I loved them. This deck, Dumpster's Discard Warlock, which had popped up and become a lot more popular and a lot more effective, with Elwyn Borlock being so prevalent. People were playing a bunch of Elwyn Boar decks, and Disco was just like, yay, all my control matchups are hiding, and I can beat them up. So this is kind of like another interesting meta twist where now all of a sudden, okay, so now boars have to take into account that they have to beat egg decks now. Between Egg Druid, which I am pro Oaken Summons, we have a big debate with this with one blister guy, Ray Wilkins. Do you include Oaken Summons in your deck or no? And Ray's a big proponent that no, you don't put Oaken Summons in your deck. Looking at the stats early on HS Guru right now, Oaken Summons looks like the 4th or 3rd best card in the list, behind Lightning Bloom and your 2 combo pieces, both in a mulligan and on drawn win rate. So when a card is that good, even if the sample size is small, when a card is polling that high in a list, it makes me pay attention, and something tells me that this is not a card you end up cutting. This is good. Dane apparently came up with something akin to this. Sure, I don't know who to attribute for this monstrosity, but this deck is very fast. I think faster on average, for my money, than Warlock. However, with this exact list, I have done the full egg combo on turn 3. If you want to check that out, that's a short on my YouTube. So now the egg decks are out, but the egg decks are funny because the egg decks, even though they kind of beat up on Disco and they beat up on boars and they kind of push out board-based aggro approaches, they lose to Hostage Mage. So Hostage Mage is all of a sudden like, yay, we have a hope now. So I've included a Hostage Mage here. It's, it's just KVLT's list. It's not the one that we've done a guide on. However, if you do want to see a Hostage Mage guide, plug another one of those videos. I've got that on there. But all of a sudden, Mage now has some game. And so people started to do a little bit of, like, in between. Like, let's say you're seeing enough Hostage Mage that you want to try and beat them Hostage Mages, but you're also seeing enough, like, Disco, and you want to be able to beat the Discos. NHL made something that's about in between. Was very 50-50 with this list. I started to run into, at low MMR, a lot of people playing weird tech to beat sort of eggs and boars. Secret Mage is starting to pop up because people realize that Secret Mage is pretty okay into Holy Wrath. It's pretty okay into Nasmani Priest, sort of. It's really decent into the egg and into the boar decks because they can't always toss away minions into objection, and then you can start running in like really spicy stuff like Spellbender and weird things like that. I've seen a Spellbender, I've seen a Tinkmaster Overspark, I've seen a Starfish, I've seen a Showstopper, I've seen all kinds of tech to kind of deal with the egg decks, and they feel sort of susceptible to it, I'll be honest. Like, I think one of the benefits of sort of playing egg lock is you can sort of tempo out the egg, and then whenever you're ready, break it with Sacrificial Summoner and then pop the egg. But if the egg isn't safe getting tempoed out, that significantly slows the deck down. So this is some, hellish hybrid. I would just, word of caution, I'm including this deck because it was promising enough when I was playing it, but I probably played it to about a 50-50 matchup. In all honesty, I think going all in on eggs, either with the Druid or with the XL egg version, is just going to feel a little bit better, especially if you're playing at a lower MMR where you're seeing more aggro. I think these are just going to, like, the percentages you lose in the aggro matchup does not justify to me playing this deck. You play this deck if you're seeing enough Hostage Mage that you want to tear your hair out, or you're seeing enough Mill Druid that you're like you just want to uninstall. That's when you start playing some hybrid like this that splits the baby and tries to do two things, although I'd argue it doesn't always do either good enough. Disco, discard Warlock. I'm including a list with the Dark Moon statue, chat. They know about it. It's a bug. It's not banned. They haven't gotten rid of it. I'm including it. Play it. It's fine. There's no morality in a card game. As soon as people start attributing morality to children's card games, I have identified an immature card player. I don't care that it's clearly bugged. They've left it in the client. They could ban it at any time. If it was a big deal, they'd ban it. It's not a big deal. Is it in the top third, maybe top half of the cards in the list? Yeah, it is. Like, a 3-mana mountain giant is good in the deck. Who would have foreseen this? But it's a 3-mana mountain giant, chat. It's a 3-mana mountain giant. I've played 3-mana mountain giants in even lock all the time on turn 3. It's perfectly fine. So I don't know, like, what's all up in arms about it, but, like, I get that people are like, this is something I shouldn't have to deal with. I felt that way about Bug Druid. To me, I could care less. And the virtue signaling is just like, of all the things to get upset about. I have included a Nasmani Priest that doesn't have the Hunter package in it for once, though I think maybe with the eggs you might want to. This is what Dumbjat was playing for a hot minute. It does have the Potion of Madness package, so that seems pretty okay right now with eggs running around. If somebody tempos out their egg, you can Potion of Madness it and then find a way to either buff it up enough that it can attack, or you can just pop it, or you could do nothing with it because it's a fucking egg. Who cares? You're faster than it anyway. But Nasmani Priest is good. Nasmani Priest is one of those decks that has about the same play rate at top 1K as Discard Warlock, and it has typically a higher win rate historically over the last couple months. It's very quietly, at least as far as like my perspective goes, one of the best decks in the format. And so I don't think it's terribly difficult to play. It does take some reps, but like, just tempoing this lass out on 3 and then bringing her back for 1 mana and then making her copies and then go and dig for the light speed. It doesn't take any animation cheating, although animation cheating obviously makes it better, but it doesn't take any animation cheating to do well with this deck. So something also to keep in mind as an option. I think I'm going to play this list to Legend this month. I am sick of fighting for board. I don't want to have to fight egg decks. I don't want to have to play egg decks. I don't want to have to fight board decks. I don't want to have to deal with control piles. I'm going to drool with Barnes Druid. I'm going to drool my way all the way up to Legend. I'm going to quick combo. I'll lose to every ice block along the way, and I won't really care. Barnes Druid looks pretty good right now because it's, again, it goes over the top of eggs. It doesn't care what you're doing as far as the egg stuff goes, and a lot of the egg decks aren't really running any kind of disruption to mess up your game plan. Disco is obviously a bad matchup, but a fast Barnes Druid can beat a discard Warlock. That's not, completely out of the ordinary or beyond the pale. It's fast enough to race Holy Wrath and Nasmani. Barnes Druid got an uptick in play because it had a good matchup into Borlock. Borlock can consistently get the thing done on turn 5, 6, 7, but Barnes can go in sometimes on turn 3 or 4. So just this is what I'm going to be trying. All right, I had to apologize to Nefane because I thought he was just net decking a Sinferno list part for part that had Happy Ghouls and Unlicensed Apothecary. Both Tylithany, May, I call her May, frequenter of my chat and great streamer on Wild Hearthstone. If you want to go watch someone play Wild Hearthstone at a high level. Oh, by the way, she's blind. But, she's a good player before you realize, oh my god, she's doing it without the use of her eyes. Was playing an unlicensed Apothecary list up to rank 69. Nice. Basically, you're tempoing this out, and then you're playing minions after it, and you're getting the Molten Giants down early was the philosophy behind it. So against aggro, instead of playing a second Plague of Flames and a second Cataclysm, we're trying to sort of turbo the quest in that matchup. It probably does make you better into something like Hostage Mage because you get to turbo the quest even faster. I'm not gonna lie, the unlicensed Apothecary lists have always been better at completing the quest faster. What I haven't liked about them in the past is they haven't had the same survivability. And you really are taking a ton of damage until you slap Employee of the Month on them or until you stop playing minions and just say, okay, I'm winning with one Giants and Broom turn. So give that a shot. Try it out. I considered playing this, but I think it has a tougher time against eggs and things like that. So I'm staying away from this for now. Hostage Mage is Hostage Mage. Again, this is not the version I ended up using for our playthrough with Marty. It's KVLT has a little bit of a different play. He says right now Hostage Mage is unplayable, but Hostage Mage still remains one of the decks that's sort of dictating what's going on in the meta. Holy Wrath. I took a generic Holy Wrath list. I don't even know where this is from. This has the Playhouse Giant as the budget version of Shirvala, in case you hadn't thought of that before. If you don't have the Tiger. I think the Tiger is still better. Is the Tiger better? Do we have enough holy spells to discount the Tiger? I don't think we do. So the Playhouse Giant is actually better tempo-wise in very, very fringe scenarios. Oh my god, who cares? Okay, getting into the spicy category. Low-key, high-key, Lerox Highlander Reno Hunter has had a high-ish win rate for a long time now. Very low sample size. But basically for the entire expansion, people have been coming up with some sort of OTK with Beastmaster Lerox, Goldrin, Tundra Rhino, insert under minions. I like this list that has the Hydralodon. I like being able to tempo out a Tundra Rhino and a Hydralodon. I like them dying. I like bringing them back with Stranglethorn Harp for lethal. What I don't like and where I've tilted in the past is Selective Breeder not always being able to get Dreadscale and not always having Dreadscale Serpent Bloom consistency. That being said, this deck's continued to perform. I've played against it, and I've played it. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's on the spicy end, though. So keep that in mind. It's on the spicy end. If you've been following my channel, you know that I made infinite videos on the longest Survivor series ever. A Survivor competition is where I basically accept deck lists, and then I play them until there's 2 losses, and then I delete them. The deck list that won it all was Reno Druid. This is my build for Reno Druid. that ended up winning it. This was my cook. We did this on stream. I did a whole video on like, hey, we cooked Reno Druid, and here's my favorite Reno Druid. And I just sort of like this list. The new inclusions that I think were big upgrades for Reno Druid are hybridization. Go and get your, they go and get your Finley, your Astalor, or they can get your Rat or your Zephyrus. They get your 3-drops are all kind of decent. You either get Bran, Mixologist, or Renathal. You're getting Renathal out of your deck, if nothing else. And your 4s are all kind of solid. Sleepy Resident, Floop, ETC, and Okani. Worth making note that Floop is currently bugged. Floop is currently, when you draw it, it's whatever minion you played last. Floop did not have to be in your hand. While, this is actually lying. While in your hand, this is a 3/4 copy of the last minion you played. So actually, I guess it's not a bug. Maybe it's a feature. It's meant to, I think, mimic the text from the new Rogue Legendary. So it's playing like the new Rogue Legendary, which is actually kind of cool. It's an awesome buff, especially if you play something like Treant Druid and you want an extra owl. Like Floop all of a sudden is now an extra owl. I digress. Just good anti-aggro package with the Seabreeze Chalice and the Rising Waves into the finishers where one win condition is Shatter ANR, one win condition is Shatter Mutanus, one win condition is make Rheastrazas and make eggs and go nuts with random value that's nice and greedy. One win condition is, Aviana, Bran, get the 2 Alexes, go face with the 2 Alexes. One win condition is Ysera the Dreamer, bouncing her over and over and over again with her own dream spell to get infinite value. There's just a lot of ways that you can get really greedy with this list with only a couple of pieces, while also at the same time being pretty solid into aggro and having a hope with Feautured and Mutanus and Dirty Rat into combo decks. I even beat Borlocks with this, just through tempo and a little bit of disruption. So 8-1 over a long sample size. It's pretty good. Pretty good. The deck that came in second place that was really surprising was an Uther OTK list that I pulled off of HS Guru. Worth noting that it's using the Mysterious Challenger package with all the secrets. I don't think that package is super, super important. If you wanted to, you could tear all this out, including the Mysterious Challenger, and fill in all decent anti-aggro cards. And it'd probably work just as well. But it is nice when you do get to play the Mysterious Challenger and you get the huge deck filtering where you get all those cards out of your deck that you can then go and more easily find your sing-along buddy or go and find your Garrison Commander. The amount of times I won with the combo was actually pretty surprising for me. I would say we're in a combo meta right now based off of the things that I was talking about, where it feels like Nasmani Priest is good and popular. It feels like Elwyn Borlock is still sort of unpopular and it's around. The egg decks like Egg Druid, which had a very small sample size, hasn't quite popped up on HS Guru yet, but when it does pop up, it has a pretty crazy win rate. Egglock, I think is going to have a really good looking win rate, especially with that XL build. I feel like we're in a combo meta, but NHL fan says, well, I think from my perspective, we're in a slop meta. We're in a piles meta. And if you look the rest of the meta, when you look at what everybody else is playing, everybody else is kind of playing piles. So piles are about Reno piles are like a third of the meta, and a quarter of the meta is combo. So even though combo is sort of dictating what people are playing, there's still a lot of people that are just sort of taking their pile of cards and going out and hitting ladder. And this deck is good into piles of cards, honestly. The Uther OTK might be even better than Holy Wrath into piles decks, because Holy Wrath in the Reno Holy Wrath section can be a little iffy, versus this is a little bit more, unless they have some way to transform your hero power, this is a little bit more... I'm searching for the right word. I guess there's consistency. There's inevitability. Inevitability is what I was looking for. This is a little bit more inevitable. Ditto with Reno Druid. Reno Druid is fantastic into other piles. So if I'm queuing into another Reno deck, forget about it. Anyway, so that's where we're at in the meta right now. I've given you a ton of decks to try, and I've even shown you what I'm probably going to try and climb with. Barnes Druid, first of the month next week. I'm not in love with the decks that exist right now. I don't really like the fact that Borlock is a thing. I don't really like the egg decks are a thing. I don't like that, you know, Nasmani Priest is really a thing. I don't like that Disco is limiting the amount of the type of aggro that we can play. But I can say that, at least we know that a mini set is relatively on the horizon in the near future, given that Play Hearthstone's starting to put out like, hey, new sets coming, get excited. And so like we might have something that comes around and then upsets the apple cart, but I don't like that we have decks that are basically negating. We have decks that are negating fighting for board. We have decks that are negating attempting to control, and we have decks that are also at the same time in Disco negating different flavors of aggro from existing. Definitely less diversity among decks right now in this meta than 2 expansions ago and Great Dark Beyond. So I think that's a negative, but you know what? We're going to go through these periods of time, and it just sort of is what it is. And if you enjoy this content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing on my YouTube channel.